In every big city, there's at least one building people avoid for reasons they can't quite explain. In the city of Harrogate, that building is Rookbridge Tower. On paper, it's unremarkable. A 16-story block of offices and a few apartments, built in the late 80s, refurbished in the early 2000s, security cameras on every floor, 2 elevators, emergency stairwells on each end. Nothing about it screams danger. But people who work there will tell you, quietly, that the building feels wrong. The air in the hallways feels a little too stale, even with the ventilation on. The lights in the stairwell take just a fraction of a second, too long to flicker on. And sometimes, they say, the elevators seem to move when no one has pressed a button. Most of them laugh it off. Most of them keep their heads down and get through their day. Until the night a man named Elliot Marsh stepped into one of those elevators and never came out in any way the cameras could explain. Elliot was 34, an IT technician for a small marketing firm on the 9th floor. He lived alone, paid his rent on time, and had the kind of life that leaves only a faint trace when you scroll through it. No criminal record, no history of mental illness, no drama, at least none that shows up in official reports. He was the sort of person you might see on public transport every day without ever really noticing. A backpack, headphones, neutral colors, a face that didn't demand attention. On February 18th, 2022, he worked late. Colleagues remember him staying after hours to finish a server migration. The building's keycard log confirms that he swiped into the office at 8:03 a.m. and didn't swipe out until nearly midnight. There are emails sent from his account throughout the day. One at 9:11 a.m. about access credentials. One at 4:32 p.m. apologizing for delayed tickets. One at 11:47 p.m. to his manager. Migration complete, monitoring overnight. See you Monday, 11:59 p.m. The office's motion sensor camera shows Elliot leaving his desk, putting on his jacket, and slinging his backpack over his shoulder. He turns out the light, walks down the hallway, and disappears through the glass door. 3 minutes later, the elevator camera on the 9th floor captures him pressing the call button. He steps inside the elevator at 12:02 a.m. He presses the button for the ground floor. The doors close. He is never seen alive again. When Elliot didn't show up for work on Monday, no one panicked. Not at first. It was common for him to work remotely after big weekend changes. But by Tuesday, his manager tried to call him. No answer. By Wednesday, the company's HR department contacted his landlord, who confirmed that Elliot's rent hadn't been paid, and his apartment door was locked from the inside. There was no response when they knocked. By Thursday, police were notified. The first thing they did was pull the building's security footage. They followed Elliot's movements floor by floor. Office corridor, lobby elevator waiting area, 9th floor elevator interior. Everything was normal until the moment the doors closed. They expected to see him again on the ground floor camera when the elevator opened, but he never appeared. The elevator doors open at 12:03 a.m. on the ground floor. The camera shows an empty car, no Elliot, no backpack, no one leaving. The elevator simply arrives empty and waits. Police thought it was a glitch, so they rewound, checked again, synchronized timestamps. The clocks matched, the logs matched. The elevator left the 9th floor with Elliot inside. 61 seconds later, it arrived at the ground floor, completely empty. There are no other interior cameras, no blind corners between the elevator and the lobby doors. There is nowhere a person could step out of frame without being seen. Still, people make mistakes. Cameras fail. So investigators checked the stairwell cameras, wondering if Elliot had somehow exited the elevator between floors and taken the stairs. Nothing. They checked every exterior camera pointed at the entrances. No sign of him leaving the building that night. It was as if he had taken the elevator down and simply ceased to be. The building manager, a man named Kellen, insisted there had to be some technical issue. "The elevator's old," he said. "The cameras are old. The wiring's a mess. There's got to be a delay or a recording error." The police brought in a specialist to examine the system. He sat in the cramped security room for hours, tracing cables, checking logs, scanning for signs of tampering. He found nothing. No dropped frames, no gaps in the feed, no overwritten timestamps. Frame by frame, the footage remained consistent. Elliot steps into the elevator. The doors close. The elevator descends. The doors open. He is gone. The building manager grew pale when the specialist told him that, technically, the system was functioning perfectly. Perfect was not the word anyone wanted to hear. There's a reason people don't like to believe in unexplained events. They invite more questions than answers. When investigators searched Elliot's apartment, they found very little to work with. His computer was still on, monitors asleep, his bed made, clothes folded in the closet, food in the fridge, not spoiled enough to suggest a long absence. His phone lay on his desk, plugged in, notifications piling up. If he had planned to disappear, he hadn't prepared very well. There were no large withdrawals from his bank account, no hidden packed bags, no travel bookings, no sign of anger, desperation, or fear in his last messages. What they did find, tucked into a folder on his desktop, was a series of screenshots, timestamps, grainy stills from the building's security feeds, images of empty hallways and closed doors, and in a few of them, something unsettling: shadows. Not the kind created by lights and objects. Shadows that appeared in the middle of empty floors, darker than they should have been, stretching in directions that didn't match any physical light source. In one screenshot, from 3 weeks before his disappearance, the elevator doors on the 13th floor are closed. Nothing unusual. The hallway is empty. In the center of the frame, however, is a shape, roughly human height, vaguely human form. Standing just in front of the elevator doors, the shadow isn't cast, it's present, like the silhouette of a person made from solid darkness. On the file, Elliot had left a single note. It doesn't show up on every camera. Rookbridge Tower officially doesn't have a 13th floor. In the elevator panel, the numbers go from 12 to 14. In the lobby directory, there is no listing for 13. Most residents assume it's superstition, like in many high-rises. In reality, the floor exists physically. It just isn't used. There's a hollow space between 12 and 14. An empty floor that doesn't appear on most blueprints and is locked behind a metal door in the stairwell. It was sealed off years ago after a fire damaged several units. Rather than repair it, the previous owners simply wrote it out of the building's public face. People forget what they can't see. But Elliot hadn't forgotten, because in another folder on his computer, police found a short text file titled 13. The document contained only 3 lines. The building has 16 floors. The elevator panel has 15 buttons. So where did the last ride really go? Detectives pressed the building manager about the sealed level. Reluctantly, he admitted that there had been an incident on the 13th floor about a decade earlier. A fire started in one of the units. The sprinklers malfunctioned. 2 residents died before firefighters arrived. One was an elderly woman, alone in her apartment. The other was a man in his 40s named David Crane. He'd lived there for years, kept to himself, never caused trouble. Officially, the fire was blamed on faulty wiring. Unofficially, the story grew twists. Some said David had become obsessed with monitoring his neighbors, watching them through the peephole, listening at doors. Some claimed he'd altered his door in some way, adding extra locks, extra bolts, extra chains. Others said they'd sometimes seen his apartment light on at odd hours, the shadow of a man pacing tirelessly back and forth. The fire consumed most of his unit. His door was found with all its locks engaged from the inside. Investigators at the time assumed he'd died trying to escape through a window. No one thought to ask a different question. What kind of person adds layer after layer of locks to a door and still doesn't feel safe? The first break in Elliot's case came from the night guard, a man named Jorge Delgado. He had worked the building's midnight shift for 7 years. Quiet, polite, good at minding his own business. He hadn't reported anything strange the night Elliot disappeared because, as he put it, nothing seemed strange at the time. But a week later, after hearing whispers about elevator glitches and missing footage, Jorge asked to speak to the lead detective. They sat in the security room, the monitors humming softly behind them. Jorge stared at his hands. "There's something I didn't mention," he said, "because, well, you'll see why." He explained that, around 11:30 p.m., the night Elliot vanished, he had noticed something odd on one of the monitors. The camera cycling through the floors showed the 13th floor hallway, which should have been dark and unused, except it wasn't dark. The overhead lights were on, the elevator doors were open, and in the hallway stood a man he didn't recognize. The man faced away from the camera, dressed in clothes too outdated for any current tenant. A loose shirt, slacks, shoes with thinner soles. He was standing very still, staring at one of the apartment doors. At first I thought it was old footage, maybe recorded before they sealed it, Jorge said. But the timestamp was live. I remember because I checked it twice. He watched the man for several seconds, expecting him to move. He didn't. Jorge leaned forward to get a better look, and the screen flickered. When it stabilized, the hallway was dark again. The elevator doors were closed. The 13th floor was empty, as it should have been. "I told myself it was a glitch," he muttered. "But when you showed me the elevator video of Elliot, I started thinking, maybe the glitch wasn't with the camera." He paused. "Maybe it was with the floor. It took a court order to get access to the sealed level. The metal door in the stairwell groaned when they forced it open. The air that rushed out smelled like dust, old smoke, and something else. Something metallic and stale, like the inside of a neglected vent. The corridor beyond was narrow and littered with debris. Wallpaper peeled in strips. The ceiling was stained with water damage and soot. Some doors hung crooked on their hinges. Others were missing entirely. The unit where the fire had started had been gutted. Charred lines fanned up the walls from where furniture once stood. The windows were boarded up. The number on the door, 13-07, was barely visible under the grime. But it wasn't this apartment that held their attention. It was the door across the hall, Unit 13-08, the former apartment of David Crane. The door was covered in locks. Even after the fire, even after years of abandonment, you could see the imprint of what had been there. The main lock, a deadbolt, 2 chain locks, holes where other mechanisms had once been bolted and pried off. Someone at some point had worked very hard to keep something out, or to keep something in. One of the detectives reached for the doorknob. It turned. No resistance, no locks engaged. The door creaked open. The room smelled worse than the hallway, as if the air itself had given up on moving. Most of the furniture was gone. What remained were marks. On the inside of the door, deep grooves had been scored into the wood, as if by metal tools dragged over and over in the same path. On the walls, faint lines in marker or pen crisscrossed like someone had been tallying days or something else. Near the floor, scratched low as if by someone sitting or crouching, were words etched again and again. "Don't answer it. Don't answer it. Don't answer it." Below them, in a different, shakier hand, one final line. "It can come through if you open on the third knock." Detectives exchanged uneasy glances. It sounded like paranoia. The scrawls of a mind unraveling. But then they checked the inside wall, near what would have been the head of the bed. A faded rectangle marked where something had once hung. A mirror, perhaps, or a frame. Underneath the soot, partially protected by where the object had blocked the worst of the smoke, were more words written in dark ink. "If you see yourself in the hallway, don't let him in." In Elliot's screenshots, the shadow in the 13th floor hallway appeared in front of the elevator, facing the camera. It was low resolution, yes. Grainy, yes. But when enhanced as much as the pixels allowed, its outline had proportions that were familiar. Same height as Elliot, similar shape of shoulders, similar tilt of the head. One tech compared side-by-side silhouettes, from the office corridor footage, from the elevator, and from the 13th floor still. The overlap was unnerving. It wasn't proof. But it suggested something chilling. Whatever had been standing in that hallway, on that supposedly unused floor, looked very much like Elliot himself, or almost like him. A step out of sync. A fraction too stiff. As if someone had taken the idea of Elliot and redrawn it from memory. There is a theory, whispered in corners of certain online forums, about something called a liminal echo. The theory goes like this. Buildings that have seen enough repetition, the same footsteps, the same routines, the same bodies moving through enclosed spaces over and over again, start to remember their occupants. Not consciously, not like a mind, more like an impression left in wet paint. Most of the time, these impressions fade. Sometimes, though, under the right conditions, stress, trauma, death, they deepen. They become loops, recorded paths of people walking their normal routes, imprinted in walls and floors and windows. These loops replay when triggered by familiarity. A similar footstep, a similar keycard swipe, a similar sigh at the same place 100 others have sighed. People sometimes see them as ghosts, repeating motions, unaware. But the darker version of the theory says this. Sometimes the echo doesn't stay in its line. Sometimes, given enough energy, it steps out. Not everyone believes this. Most dismiss it as an urban legend. But if you ask the few who know what happened in Rookbridge Tower, they'll tell you the same story. Elliot Marsh took the elevator from the 9th floor to the ground. On the way down, something in the building recognized him, recognized his pattern of movement, his routine, his late-night rides, his tendency to work when the building was nearly empty, and when the elevator passed the space between 12 and 14, where a forgotten floor still sat in the dark, something reached out to meet that familiar echo. And the building janked his path sideways, into the floor that technically doesn't exist, into the hallway that once belonged to a man who wrote warning after warning on his own walls. Don't answer it. Don't open after the third knock. Don't let yourself in. Because what else do you call it when the thing at your front door looks like you, moves like you, and knows exactly how you turn your key? Officially, Elliot's case is unsolved. No body, no evidence of foul play. The report lists him as a missing person, presumed dead after exhaustive searches produced no leads. Unofficially, Rookbridge Tower has changed. The elevator that Elliot took is rarely used at night now. People take the stairs in groups. The 13th floor access has been welded shut again, this time with heavy plates and more serious locks, as if metal alone can hold back whatever moved there. Sometimes, When the building is quiet and the hour is late, the night guards say the elevator still moves on its own. It leaves the ground floor, stops nowhere that anyone has requested, pauses for exactly 1 minute, then returns empty. A few months after Elliot vanished, Jorge heard something on the security feed, a soft, irregular tapping, picked up faintly by one of the older hallway microphones. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks again, pause, then very faintly, a voice. "Open up, it's me. I think I got stuck." Jorge muted the feed and went downstairs. He walked the lobby, the stairwell, the basement. He found nothing, no one. Later, when he replayed the audio, it wasn't there. No knocks, no voice. Just the faint hum of electricity and the distant grind of pipes. He considered quitting that night. He still might. For now, he simply avoids looking too closely at the screens when the elevator doors open and close with no one inside. Because every so often, if the light hits the lens just wrong, he swears he can see a second shadow in the elevator. One that doesn't belong to any of the people currently in the building. One that stands very still, right in front of the doors, waiting for them to open on a floor that's not supposed to be there. So what do you think happened to Elliot Marsh? Was he the victim of a technical glitch? A simple misreading of timestamps and cameras overlooking some very human crime? Did he choose to disappear and use the building's strange reputation as a smokescreen? Or did Rookbridge Tower, its forgotten floor, its burned door, its old habits, take one more person into the space between stories and statistics? One more man who stepped into an elevator and trusted it would only take him where the buttons promised. I want to hear your theory. Share your thoughts in the comments. Every possibility reveals another side of the case. And if this story made you think twice about stepping into an empty elevator at night, subscribe to the Shadow Case Files so you don't miss the next disappearance waiting just beyond the doors.